Hello everyone and welcome to Callsign Charlie Models. Time for another inbox review or unboxing. Today's unboxing is of a oldie but goodie, a nice vintage kit from 1990 something. Scalemates just has it as 1990X for this boxing. The original plastic was released in 1985. So this is a reboxing of a 1985 kit. So it is a I would like to say a young kit because I'm coming up on my birthday, and yeah, I'd like to say this is a young kit, but it is not. So we're gonna open up the box, look at all the detail on it, see what all's in it, and then I do have some aftermarket sets to really bring this up. The one thing I do need to get for it is the aftermarket 3D printed cockpit that is out and available. Somewhere I'll have to do a search for it again. I passed it on Facebook one day and I was like, oh, that's cool, but I didn't save it. But yeah, so I'm going to do a quick Google search on that and try to find that. And the box is dusty because it's been sitting here for a while. But let's get this box open and take a look at everything that's in it. Alright, so we'll start off with the instructions for this. Zoom in here. On the front, or this is a fold out. So get turned around here, get the right way. Alright, so starting off, we're adding glass to our rear cockpit sections and here in the fuselage top. Then moving on, we're going to add that to the delta wing fuselage, and then we have a couple cockpit parts to add in along here, adding more cockpit and more cockpit detail parts, your ejection seats all along here, your front landing gear, adding all that in, and then you're adding your front cockpit section with your nose landing gear right there. And then you're starting with your tail wheel or your main landing gear, getting that done, and your landing gear doors, getting all those on, and then your pitot tube onto here. And then flipping her around, again, more of the main landing gear, adding more detail parts, and then the bottom part of the wing, getting your landing gear section into the bottom part of your wing, and then your landing gear actual wheels, getting all of that attached. And again, still moving on, adding more parts to your landing gear doors, more landing gear parts, and getting your bottom fuselage onto your top fuselage, and adding the front bottom of the fuselage to that. And then we're starting on our engines and then getting all that done. With this, I do have all the engine stuff in aftermarket, so I will not be using, I'm pretty sure, any of this, maybe the actual plastic for the main part, but the intakes and the exhausts, I do have the aftermarket for that. Then you're attaching your engines to your wings, getting that done, and then you're starting with your tail section and then your tail cannon. I do have the corrected tail cannon section for that as well. And then you're getting your tail section added to the aircraft, and then you have your bombs to add and fuel tanks and all that to add onto it. So the giant fuel tank that was on here, getting that on, and then you're starting with your front hatch that you can have in the open or closed position. So then moving on to the back side, we have our color and paint callouts. So you have two different callouts, looks like all aluminum and the black, and then you have the aluminum with the black and the red. Let's see, I don't know which one I would choose. I like the red tail, but I also like the aluminum. We'll have to do, I'm more siding with the aluminum on here. So, but yeah, so instructions, typical of 1985, pretty cut and dry. They're pretty simple, not much to it. So let's get into the kit parts and see what it was like back then. Alright, so we'll start off with the top fuselage section. or yeah, top fuselage section. And again, it's all raised detail, very basic. This was molded in 1985, so it is pretty old, but all in all pretty nice. And you'll have, so what I'll be doing is I'll be going back in and rescribing all these panel lines all along here to make them recessed panel lines and get that fixed. And then we'll have to see with the printed cockpit on what all we need to do to take care of this area right here. So and then we have some clear parts that were floating around in the kit. The front canopy looks crystal clear, no issues with those. That's going to be very nice. And then these are for your rear windows, and those also do look very nice. So we'll see how those fit. Alright, so we have a few loose parts in this kit. So we have the exhaust. The exterior exhaust detail looks decent, pretty blank on the inside and just blanked off all the way back. So I do have the aftermarket of these, so I'm not really worried about that. And then we'll move on to the underside. Again, raised panel lines and all that. So we'll go back in and rescribe all that, get that looking nice and good. And we have some different mold plastic cooling areas on here, but that shouldn't be too big of an issue to take care of. Nice and easy to sand down, and some flash to take care of. But again, not too bad, especially for a vintage kit. And this was top notch back then. So I have to give credit to everybody that built these back then, without all the extra stuff that we have today and some of the beautiful work that you guys did back then. So kudos to you guys. And then moving on with the upper wing of the fuselage, again, nice raised panel lines, but we'll go in and rescribe everything and get those all looking good and right. So, and then your bombs look nice. Your wheels, I do have the aftermarket wheels, and then here are your fan blade or your exhaust blades for your jet engines. And then again on the tail, same thing, raised panel lines, no rivet detail, but all in all looking pretty good. All right, and then on the opposite side is just your lower side, same thing, raised panel lines, no other detail on it. But yeah, that's how that is. One of your intakes, like I said, I have the aftermarket intakes. We'll take a look at that and see how that's going to improve. And then your top cockpit fairing, and from here it looks very nice. There's no real detail on the inside. An ejector pin mark right there, so you can either have it closed or opened up. For me, if I don't do the 3D printed cockpit, I will have it all closed up. Alright, so moving on to the rest, these are the last couple sprues of this kit, and then we'll just move on into the aftermarket. We got one more sprue, so there we go. Again, these are your engine nozzles. It just shows how beefy these engines are. This is probably 9 inches in total length. The total length of this model is 26 inches. But yeah, it's again raised panel lines. So go in there, rescribe them. If there's panel lines needed, take care of that. But those aren't too bad. And then the giant fuel tank that was on the bottom right here, again, same detail on there. Smaller fuel tanks. The other half of your engine, same, raised panel lines, no other detail. Some decent cockpit seats or ejection seats, landing gear, all of that. Then continue on, same thing. This is just a repeat sprue with your engines, some fairings, and your landing gear areas, and the cockpit detail on here. The cockpit detail does look very nice for 1985. And again, interior of the landing gear doors, very nice on here. Can't really say much to it because it's, like I said, almost 40 years old, if not more than 40 years old. And yeah, it's held up over time to a point. Sad thing is, nobody else has done this in 1/48 scale. Alright, so moving on to the decals. They are starting to yellow, so I'm going to have to put these up in the window in the sun to get rid of that yellowing. If not, I'll try to find some aftermarket online on eBay. But so these decals were printed in 1989. Alright, we'll start off here with the replacement gun turret. Alright, so some nice rivet detail on here. You can barely see it. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but it's there. You can see it. And then the detail on your gun, you have all the barrels here. Very nice. They're hollowed out on the very end, so that's another nice touch. So definitely going to want to add that to the kit, and that is from SBS model number 48070. I found this on eBay. Alright, next up we have the SBS resin detail set, the B-58 seamless engine intakes right here. So let's get this opened up. Look at the instructions first. We have a couple steps to do, just adding all this in, and then that's it for the intakes. So let's take a look at the actual intakes. Alright, so we have one of the cones, again blank but nice and smooth detail on there. Then you have your compressor blades, again some nice blade detail on that as well. Then your cone for your intake, again very nice detail. A little bit of flash on the front nose right here, but that's shit, I broke it, so we'll just have to re-glue that one and try to get that fixed. Then more of your intake detail right here, fan blade, another piece right here. So all the detail does look very nice on that. So you get 4 of each on that. Alright, up next we have the Res Kit wheels for this kit, and this will definitely be a major upgrade for the wheels on this set. Again, going through the instructions, not much to them, just use part number 43, and then you're adding in your resin parts here. You have another kit from the part, or you're replacing a piece from the kit right here, and then you're adding a couple other pieces. You have the back view and the side view of everything. Again, some very nice detail on that. Right, these are your main wheels right here. Nice. Some nice tread on those. No sidewall, or there is a little bit of sidewall detail on those as well. Then that's a repeat bag right there. Alright, so this is your nose landing gear wheel hub right here. Again, very nice detail on that. As you can see, is hollowed through. Then on the back side, again, very nice detail on that. And then on this part, these are your sway arms for your rear landing or main landing gear, and those look very nice. Alright, so more detail parts for your wheels. These are your hubs for your wheels. Again, some nice detail on there. And then for the back side, your brakes right in here. So you can even see there's a little brake line on there as well. So some very, very fine detail that is included in this. Alright, then last up is the Aries B-58 exhaust nozzles. So we know these are going to be way better than what is provided in the kit. Alright, so going through the instructions, doesn't look like there's much to it. You have your exhaust can right here, and then you're attaching this piece to the exhaust and adding some photo etch right here, and then your fan blades. Let me zoom out so you can actually see that. Alright, so your exhaust can right here, and then the afterburner, and then your afterburner ring and your exhaust fans. So very nice detail on that. This is your photo etch. Again, very nice, typical Aries photo etch. And then let's get into the resin. Alright, so starting off with this, again, the detail on here looks very nice. A lot better than what is provided in the kit. So you have that added bonus right there. And then your fan blades right here. Again, very nice detail on those. And then for your exhaust, I'm hoping that the camera is picking up all that detail on there, but that is some very nice detail on there. So this is definitely gonna liven up the model and make it look a lot better. Alright, so that does it for the B-58 and 1/48 scale from Monogram. The kit looks like it's from 1985. It looks old. The molding looks old. All the raised panel lines, the lack of, I'm sure there weren't any rivets on this. They wanted it to be as flush as possible so it could go as fast as possible. But the lack of all the other detail on this kit as well, and plus having to re-scribe everything is going to be a blast. So I'm honestly not too impressed. The decals said they're old, so I'm gonna have to, hopefully the sun will take care of the yellowing. If not, I'll have to find some aftermarket decals. With the engines, I think with the engines, with the intakes and the exhaust I have, that's probably going to be the best part of the kit. Unless I can find the aftermarket cockpit for this, so I can have all the cockpit open. Otherwise, I'm going to have it all closed up. Honestly, I'm thinking about just having it all closed up anyways, because I do like how sleek and fast it looks all closed up. So with that being said, I think I'm going to rate this kit a 4 out of 10 on my scale for pre-build, just because of the amount of work that's going to have to go into it to have it look proper, with the recessed panel lines and redoing all the engine detail, and then underneath on the landing gear base and all that is just going to take a ton of work. So yeah, I'm going to say pre-build and just impressions of a 4 out of 10 for that. So, but anyways, this was a nice review of a oldie but goodie, a vintage kit, and thank you for watching. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell button for reminders of when I post new content. And until next time, have a great day and stay frosty.